I have already taped down the paper. Now let us start by sketching or marking the composition of the painting. I'm going to draw the horizon line somewhere in the upper half of the paper. Then I'm gonna mark the area for the water stream. Draw the stream with some wobbly lines, and as we approach towards the foreground area, we will try to make the stream broader in size. Next, around the horizon area, we will draw some slopy curves depicting a heap of snow. Here I'm going to darken some areas to suggest the shadow or the depth under the snow. Just doing it to remember the shadow areas as I paint. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to apply water here above this area, wetting the entire sky area. So first I'll take permanent yellow, apply some circular strokes. Then around that I'm going to apply some orange strokes in thicker consistency because our paper is already wet, so it will become like a diluted shade later on. Next, let us apply some pink hues in the mid areas of the sky. I am using crimson, and some purple and ultramarine blue. So we'll mix these two shades. Same thing will repeat for the lake water as well. Okay. So here I want the shadows to be very intense, so I'm applying wet on dry technique. The sky was painted with wet on wet. The reflection doesn't have to be exactly like the sky. I mean, you can try to maintain around 90% of the sky in the reflection. Carefully apply water around the boundaries of the water stream. Notice how I blend the colors here. I'm going to paint the shadow of the trees at this moment itself. That is, I'll be mixing brown and blue. Here I haven't already painted the trees, but I want to add the shadows at this point because it will create a nice wet on wet blend. So based on the reflection of the trees, you can then paint the actual trees. Currently I do not have particular shape in my mind. I'm just trying to, build some shapes. Since the paper is already wet, we are getting nice and softer blend here. Be careful about the paint consistency. If you're having too watery paints, you're gonna get some blooms. So avoid using a lot of water for this area. Around 70% of paints and 30% of water. Here around the boundaries I am adding some lines trying to define the shape of the snow. Next I'll take slightly darker color, mixing a bit of black, and I'll simply add some horizontal lines depicting the movement in the water. So now I'm going to make this area dry. I'll use my blow dryer. Alright, now the paper has dried completely. Next we will move on to paint the tree line in the horizon area. Next I'm going to take my old brush and I'll be mixing a very darker shade, that is burnt umber and black. Now I'll take the paints, dab off all the extra paints that's there, and as you can see I'm dabbing the brush, creating some random strokes. This will depict the tree foliage and the distant area. When I reach around the mid area where we have the sun rays, I'm going to add some brown strokes, creating sunlit effect. So here, to achieve the sunlit effect, I am mixing burnt sienna with brown. You could also use some orangish brown. Next I'll add some red color there. It will add the intense sunlit effect in the tree line. I don't want this area to be just red or orange in color, so I'm adding some darker color foliage as well. Try to keep a mix of different colors here. That will create a nice harmony in the distant area. Now take black and paint the trunk of the tree. I am using a fine liner brush here to achieve these tiny lines. I love how this has turned out in the center part. Just look at that intense sunlit effect on the tree line. You can add some branches as well to define the tree shapes. Next, I am adding some darker color for the shadow areas to define the snow. So I'll take black and add it on the areas where I had marked some pencil lines. You could also mix your own black, that's up to you. Now I'll use Payne's Grey plus a bit of ultramarine blue. And I'll apply some shadows here for the snowy heap that we have created. Now we will add some guiding lines from foreground to the background area. This will create an impression that this area is leading towards the background. Also adding some shadows on the right side of the stream. Adding some branches. Even though we are painting this in a kind of loose style, but adding little bit of details here and there like these branches adds a sense of realistic touch to your painting. So go ahead and add whatever details you want. Next, let me add some grasses on the snow. With this darker color, I'm just adding some random dots here and there. This will create a sense of dimension in the snow. Next, I'm going to use mid-tone consistency of the grey color we used, and I'll be adding some dimension to the snow. Next, I'll use white gouache paint. You could also use thicker white watercolor. It's up to you. I'm taking this white color directly from the tube and applying it as smaller snow areas in the background part. Adding one in the foreground as well. Next, I'm going to take the same sky color, that is orange and crimson, and I'll be adding some ripples. So just paint some horizontal and zigzaggy lines. These lines, they suggest a sense of movement in the water. And with black color, some ripples over here. We are adding these lines based on the existing base color. So wherever we have the darker areas, we will use black, and wherever this pink and orange, we'll use the respective color. Alright, so we are done with this painting. If you want, you can splatter some white snow as well. Take thick white paint and mix it with a little bit of water, like 10% of water, and splatter the paints. Alright, let's remove the masking tape. Alright, so we are done with this painting. I hope you enjoyed painting this with me.